What's up guys, it's Netero and today I am back with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite characters from Attack on Titan, Commander Erwin Smith, about his life and about his motivations. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with my latest videos and smash that like button below to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. If you begin to regret, you'll dull your future decisions and let others make your choices for you. All that's left for you then is to die. Nobody can foretell the outcome. Each decision you make holds meaning only by affecting your next decision. So who is Erwin Smith? Erwin Smith was the 13th commander of the Survey Corps, which is a branch of the military most actively involved in human expansion and combat engagement with Titans. Erwin is a complex character. Distant, calculating and discerning, he was a tactical mastermind. For example, he was the first to realize there was a spy among the Survey Corps and then devise a method to flush the spy out, demonstrating his clear intellect. Erwin is driven, charismatic and discerning. His most unique and recognizable trait, however, is his willingness to sacrifice his troops for his greater goal. They know once they're on a mission with Erwin, most of them are about to die, but his charisma makes them want to die for him. He's also an eloquent orator, clear to see on many occasions. For example, when he sways the trainees into choosing which branches of the military to join. So, what are Erwin's motivations? Erwin is a stoic individual whose outwardly aim was to see humanity dominant over the Titans again and prevent humanity's erasure. I think it's debatable whether this was his secondary aim or whether it was his aim at all. I'm inclined to think it was his secondary aim though, after his primary one. His primary aim being to prove his father's theory right. As a child, Erwin was inquisitive and asked his father, who was a teacher, why humanity within the walls had no recollection of life before the walls. His father shared his hypothesis with Erwin that the king had altered humanity's memory in order to better control them. At the time, Erwin was a naive youngster and he shared his father's theory with his friends. Ultimately, this got back to the military police, who arranged for Erwin's father's accidental death. After that, Erwin never shared his theory again and began life moving up the ranks in the Survey Corps. The death of Erwin's father set Erwin on a path to prove him right, and Erwin is willing to place achieving this above anything else. He lived a lie all of his life in pursuit of this goal. The lie being that his primary objective was to prevent humanity's erasure as a commander in the Survey Corps. He was also characterized by his willingness to take on the darkness of humanity and therefore be responsible for the death of thousands if it would further his true goal, essentially taking on the role of a heartless demon in many of humanity's eyes. Because of this characteristic of being able to pull the trigger on sacrificing his soldiers, he was a master strategist, taking on big risks in his battle plans for big returns. For example, he led a group of Titans to distract the armored Titan so the military could save Eren, which was extremely risky. In the process, Erwin even lost an arm. Erwin would order hundreds of soldiers to their death in pursuit of his dream, all the while outwardly appearing that his ultimate goal was to save humanity. Outwardly, he showed no weakness in this regard. During the story, he admits what his true goal is to Levi, and I think that this is probably the first time that he has said this out loud to himself in years. He might have even come to believe what others believed about him, that he was doing all that he was doing to save humanity. This is actually really tragic, as it might be the first time that Erwin has vocalized his realization that he is actually a grand conman. In this scene, Erwin is so emotionally vulnerable. We've never seen him like this before. What about Erwin's abilities? I think Erwin is an extremely well-written character. Nothing he does in the world of Attack on Titan is supernatural, and there are clear limits to what he can achieve. He constantly wants more out of himself and his troops, but the nature of reality and the excellent writing of Attack on Titan prevent him from doing anything out of the ordinary, as it were. Everything Erwin does comes with great loss, and he is not written as some sort of invincible chosen one. He's human at the end of the day, and his plans are high risk and have holes in them, which makes his character all the more believable and relatable. He's not a typical shonen protagonist who gets a rage boost of power every time his comrades are in danger. He is beaten time and time again, as we would expect in real life, against the monumental odds he faces. Again, this makes his character all the more believable. He's a fallible human who suffers genuine loss. For example, Erwin's plan to capture a Titan shifter gets thwarted because he didn't know that Annie could summon Titans to eat her, and this actually results in the decimation of the Survey Corps. As we move further into the story of Attack on Titan, we get closer to Erwin's death. What's interesting about Erwin though is that in a way he was faking it till he made it. Behind his stoic front, he regularly questioned his own motivations and whether he was doing the right thing in lying to his troops about his true motivations and sending them to their death in droves, all to achieve his own personal goal of proving his father right, due to the result of his feeling of guilt that he had a part to play in his father's death when he mentioned his father's theory to his friends. Towards the end of Erwin's life, we come to realize the water is muddy and Erwin's resolve to sacrifice his comrades' lives for his father's legacy is not so ironclad. Erwin charges the Beast Titan with new recruits to the Survey Corps, effectively marching them to their death, and ultimately his, in the best charge scene I've ever seen in anime. The Beast Titan throws rocks to batter Erwin's charge, and as soldiers and horses die around him, Erwin realizes that he cannot win. Erwin snaps, and his resolve to prove his father right becomes overtaken by his guilt in ordering thousands of his comrades to their death on the lie of his own motivations. This is seen in Erwin standing sullenly atop a pile of corpses, noticeably with clean blades and a well-kept uniform, possibly indicating that he knows that he built his outward legacy on a lie, resulting in the death of thousands, and his guilt has finally caught up to him. Do you truly understand the depth and humanity of Erwin's character during his final charge though? I think he did feel great remorse and responsibility for the lives of his soldiers that he was entrusted with, and he was clearly embattled with himself internally due to the two competing goals he had. On one side to realize his father's theory as true, and on the other side to fulfill the role humanity saw him within, as a sort of savior who had the responsibility for the lives of thousands of soldiers. Ultimately, Erwin leads the most epic charge scene in anime at the end of his life towards the Beast Titan, and this is the last battle he ever takes part in. As Erwin is dying, Levi also nods to the fact that Erwin was extremely torn internally at sacrificing so many lives for his dual goals, by ultimately choosing Armin to be revived and inherit the Colossal Titan over Erwin, citing his desire to let Erwin ultimately rest in peace so that he's no longer tormented internally. I think Erwin is ultimately a very tragic character, not good or bad in a clear sense, but kind of just human in his motivations, and that tore him apart. He gave everything towards his goal due to the fact that he felt guilty about being responsible for his father's death, but it wasn't enough in the end, and he couldn't in his life prove his father right. He wanted to be the Superman commander that everyone saw him as, but he couldn't change his true heartfelt intention towards this, his major intention being to save his father's legacy and understand the nature of the world. He didn't achieve the intention he truly wanted with regards to his father, but died alongside his troops, realizing his secondary intention to save humanity. His willingness to die alongside his troops away from Grisha Jaeger's basement, and therefore away from the ability to prove his father's theory true, being a clear indication that he did ultimately care about humanity and his troops and wasn't just selfish. He realized that his lie had gone too far at this point and made the ultimate sacrifice, being mortally wounded in his final charge. Hey guys, if you like this video, please remember to smash that like button and subscribe to help me out with the YouTube algorithm and to keep up to date with all of my latest content.